Who is the most underrated player on this team? I like to give out this award before training camp every year. In the past, it's gone to Kyle Juszczyk. He's usually in the running. Who would you give the most underrated player award to on this team?
Uh, well, I feel like I kind of did that last week with Emmanuel Mosley, so I'm gonna go a
Yeah.
different direction and go
Okay.
Aziz Al-Shahir
I like that.
because Aziz Al-Shahir. I mean, I think maybe some Niner fans now like kind of like sing his praises pretty tough, but I feel like it's not loud enough, but especially it's not nowhere near even blinked or a thought for a second in a twinkle of anyone's eye anywhere outside of the Bay Area. He really was arguably better than Fred Warner last year. It's pretty crazy to see. I mean, I say this every time I got to talk about him. That Seattle game pretty much is the one that really bought me into like, this guy's a real deal. He stepped in without Warner. He looked better than Warner in that game. My God, it was all over the freaking place. Pass deflection, forced fumble, I think. Runs,
Agree.
everything. He did freaking everything, and it's nuts to see. That's the linebackers that all these teams want, so that way they don't have to run extra safeties, because that way you have someone who can play well in coverage, come up and run support, and if you need him to dial up a blitz, then you got him right there. So to me, it's easily Aziz Al-Shahir. I think he's going to step in. I think people are going to forget about him until he starts making plays early on in the season. It wouldn't shock me to see him make a play in the Bears game, because Justin Fields is going to be prone to like at least like 10 mistakes because he has no help. So I think he's really going to stand out in that game early on, and I think that's where he's going to finally start seeing some traction gain to his name.
Yeah, I agree. He was a big story last year, and I thought that he was their best run defending linebacker. As good as Fred Warner is,
yeah, he was.
A lot of Fred Warner's value is coverage. Like Aziz hits harder, is in the backfield more often. And Warner's good against the run, but Aziz is better. Mm-hmm. And I think what's also interesting is I think he's playing out of position. I think he's a Mike. I think he could be one of the best Mike linebackers in the league. And he's not playing there because Warner plays there. But as you saw, when Warner missed a game, Aziz had his best game of the year. I think people saw that. I don't think the Niners are going to re-sign him because I don't think they can afford. I think he's going to get a lot of money. And I don't think they can afford two. I don't think you should be spending big money on two linebackers. So he's going to go somewhere and be someone's Pro Bowl Mike linebacker, probably. I would think. So that's a good one. I got someone else. And I like that you went run defense on this one because I'm going run defense. So I'm sticking defense. Samson Ebukam. So to me, I was looking at like what happened with this run defense last year where it could go from putrid the first half of the season to great. And there were a few changes. A big one was moving Armstead from defensive end to defensive tackle. I never liked the Armstead at defensive end thing. It was like remember Red Bryant on the Seahawks? He was 360 pounds. He played DN. He was setting the edge. It was like, yeah, it's great. Okay. But what if the quarterback runs? What about containing the quarterback in the pocket? Because quarterbacks run a lot now, and Armstead could never do that, and it wasn't his fault because he was playing out of position. They put him at D tackle. He's better at everything. But you can only do that if you actually have a defensive end who can do all the things, who can contain the quarterback and stop the run. And that's what Ebukam does really, really well. He's a decent pass rusher, but, I mean, you can't run at his side. You can't bootleg to him. You can't zone read to him. You can't scramble to him. I mean, honestly, all that stuff, he'd be better off going at Bosa, who's very good against the run too. So I think Ebukam is extremely underrated and underappreciated.
And they played him on those early downs too. They're like to really put him like as an orange cone to the side.
They used him as like a designated pass rusher early in the season. Like that's the wrong way to use him. That's the opposite. And now they get it. He's your first down guy. And then you bring in someone like Kamoko Toure or Drake Jackson to spell him on third and long, of course. But I mean, that first down pass rush, run defense is very important because if you can stop the run on first and second down, it's 3rd and 8 instead of 3rd and 2. So I do think Ebukam is very important. And a lot of people this year were looking at the Niners cap space saying, well, they can just cut Samson Ebukam and hold on. Because if you cut him, then you got to put Armstead back at defensive end. And I really believe he's a liability at defensive end. Not his fault. He's not his position. He's an excellent defensive tackle and a not good defensive end. And I think the Niners are stuck in the past trying to play 300-pound players at DN. Like, no, quarterbacks are too dynamic. You got to have dynamic players in the edges, and they have it now in Samson Ebukam. I mean, there was a reason the Rams were so good against Kyler Murray and freaking Russell Wilson all those years, and the Niners weren't. This guy helps. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yep. And plus, those are the two teams. It's funny you mentioned like the Rams, Cardinals. They are more prone to throw on early downs because they don't have that philosophy like, oh, we got to run the ball. I mean, maybe McVay does a little bit, but I mean that's only because it's Kyle Shanahan tree. Ultimately, they want to throw and throw often. So, all right, cool. Ebukam's capable of rushing early. Let's go run with them.
Yeah, and if you want more pass rush, you can always bring in someone else. But run defense is important because if you're just giving up 5 yards a carry, you're going to get run on. Period. Even if the team is good at passing, like it's free. It's like taking candy from a baby at that point. So you got to put up some resistance. And again, what I like about Ebukam is he's like, to me, the modern edge setter. He's not 275 pounds. He's 255. He's freaking jacked. He can set the edge. But if you try to bootleg to him, he's in your quarterback's face. He's so good at being disciplined and not falling for the fake that really you shouldn't bootleg to him. What you should, if you want to bootleg to the right, which is the quarterback's dominant throwing side, you probably need to pull a blocker over there and bring some, you got the things you got to do. You might as well just roll left or just stay in the middle of the pocket. So I think there's value in that because to me, when Armstead's out on the defensive end, I can't get over how detrimental that is to the structure of the defense. And again, it's not his fault. He's playing out of position. It's a big one. Ebukam to me.
And it's not even so much that Ebukam or whoever would be playing in that role who they necessarily have to get to the quarterback because it's kind of hard to get to those speedy quarterbacks as long as you make the run go wider. Whereas if you're going up against Armstead or someone slower, you're pretty much just turning it up where the numbers are at right there. Mm-hmm. But at least if you're Ebukam, you're faster. All of a sudden, you're Murray, for example. You're running closer to the sideline. Now you got to tiptoe it, and instead of what looks like a 10-yard gain, you made it like a 3-yard gain. So and that gives more time for the linebackers to get over. I think that's what they always say is like set the edge, not even just set the edge on the defensive line. It's like force everything inside, force things to your teammates. Yep. So if you're Ebukam, you get beat. It's like, all right, great. In a way, you're kind of forcing him to your teammates by giving time to your linebackers, your safeties, your corners to get off the receivers and come up. So as everything is always a delay play. So that's even a positive play too, not necessarily just getting the pressure.
Also, I feel as every season goes on, containing mobile quarterbacks is more important. I mean, it used to be 15 years ago, there were very few mobile quarterbacks, and it was all about just sort of getting the quarterback off his spot. It's not good enough anymore. I mean, Armstead can't just bull rush in against a offensive tackle, get the quarterback off his spot, because what's going to happen against a lot of quarterbacks is like Carson Wentz, Josh Allen. We saw it happen a lot a couple of years ago. You're just going to scramble out to the right, and big play is going to happen. A huge freaking play is going to happen. And to me, Armstead was inviting it, or really the defensive coordinator was inviting it by playing Armstead out there. With Ebukam, dude, you should stay in the pocket. You're better off staying in the pocket because as soon as you leave his side, he's going to get you. If you're staying there, I mean, he's not a great pass rusher. He doesn't have a bunch of moves. He's strong. He has a bull rush. He strains to the whistle, but you're better off staying in the pocket, buddy. Yeah, and for a guy like Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray, that's not good news. It's really not good news. So I like a guy like that.
I always wonder what Chris Kosarek always thinks every time they try to play like his players out of position like that, or just maybe not position, but like taking away their strength. You know, it's like if you're Kosarek, it's just like, hey, why are you playing my guy there, man? Now you're making me look dumb because like I think you make it look like I can't coach when I can. I can't only imagine. I'm saying to play him over here, and you're over here making us waste. Yeah. Come on.
I got a ton of respect for Robert Saleh, but I frequently didn't understand his vision for certain players, and he was always about having Armstead play D end. And I guess I get it. Like theoretically, a 6'7" high cut dude like that shouldn't be a good run defender inside because he's high cut and you're kind of prone to getting double teamed and someone taking out your legs. But
that's more explosive players.
That you see actually, he's a good run defender inside. He's better than you would think. And to me, there's nothing he does well on the now. If you're going up against a team with a statue at quarterback, you can play Armstead at DN. He'll set the edge out there. But if the quarterback can move, Armstead's not going to be a pass rusher. He's not going to contain him. It's not going to do much good, and he could do a lot bad, and that's not his fault again. So that was Saleh's thing. I think he got it from Pete Carroll. Carroll liked using that big 350-pound DN on base downs, Red Bryant. That's a thing of the past. You don't do that anymore. And D'Amico doesn't do that.
And 2019 was like Armstead's first real year of seeing majority of his pass rush snaps or just even a lot of snaps inside, right? I know you want to give credit to number one, he was finally healthy. Number two, he's playing next to Buckner, but he was always playing next to Buckner. I mean, that year, it's like you finally start to get the stars to align, and you see him finally hitting his stride. And even last year, he didn't have – well, he had DJ Jones next to him. DJ Jones was pretty damn good. But still, he was able to really make a force of his own without even having a threat next to him because it's not like people were going to double DJ Jones. So they finally got that little niche with him.
First thing the Niners did when they got here was move Eric Armstead to Leo and draft Solomon Thomas. They really didn't get that right. Like, what are you doing? You thought Solomon Thomas was going to – and then they had to move Armstead back to D tackle and try Solomon Thomas as an edge rusher. Remember how bad Solomon Thomas was as an edge rusher? Wow. I mean,
Solomon Thomas 2020 said literally said out loud, like, literally screamed at the podium, my money makers inside. It's like, God, if that wasn't an indictment on your franchise, but we've always known these guys don't play their people in position, right? Like, look everywhere, top to bottom. They've always done this. They don't play.
Solomon Thomas's moneymaker was the combine. Let's be clear. He hasn't done anything in the NFL to earn him money. But his moneymaker in the NFL was the combine.
That's true. Yeah.
He is human Velcro as a pass rusher.
But there was a difference that I saw, at least. Like, okay, he's actually a serviceable inside versus outside. It's like, what are you doing?
Was he serviceable in the Raiders last year? His numbers weren't anything special, but he actually got in the back.
Yeah, he was.
Disengaged for a change?
Inside, he was serviceable. Okay. Yeah, rotational, serviceable. Right. But that's pretty much his ceiling. He was fine. Yeah. You know, just a little rotation, getting in there for like 10, 15 snap types.
Is he still on the team?
No, he's with the Jets now. I wonder why.
Yeah, exactly right. You gotta love Robert Saleh's loyalty. See what he can do with him. How he uses them. I'm curious. What's the vision for Solomon Thomas in year 6? Curious. Anyway, I don't know why we're talking about Solomon Thomas. Most underrated player. Anyone on offense you would give this to? Trey Lance.
Offense.
Jimmy.
Who'd you say? No. Yeah, I would give someone.
Right? It's always offense.
I'd give it a. Not Kyle Juszczyk, because I mean that's obvious. How about Jeff Wilson? Just because, you know, he's someone you could throw in a rotation. Not like you really do like that, but you do have him for that capability for those 5 to 8 carries a game. And if God forbid you have a running back or two down, you know you could step in. You could still call the same offense you always did and just keep the ball rolling like nothing.
I like that. That's a good answer, Jeff Wilson.
Because other than that, I don't know who else could be considered underrated. I'd say I think Ayuk's perfect where he is. Debo, obviously, Kittle.
Yeah, man. I think you could almost argue that a lot of the players on the offense are overrated because of the Kyle Shanahan effect. Everyone thinks everyone on the offense has got the potential to be special because
Kyle if anything, it's be more on the overrated side. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Anyway, because a lot of people think the Niners are an offensive-driven team. It's a defensive-driven team.
Because when your head coach is a certain side of the ball, people just assume that's it. But that's why it's always crazy. When your head coach is that side of the ball, that should be your strength. That should be.
But it hasn't been ever on this team.
No, ever.
But again, that's Kyle's design. Like, he wants to draft defensive linemen first round every year. He says that. He really thinks he can scheme up the offense, and he, just needs that talent on the D-line. That's how he thinks too. So it's not necessarily an indictment of him. It's what he wants.
Said before in his inexperience, because when you go up against really tough defensive linemen, like the ones he is drafting, he says like it's really hard. It's like almost impossible to scheme around it and stuff like that. So I heard him say something like that one time.
But his offense is very much like it's a slow developing play offense. It's a lot of under center stuff, 7-step drops, play action. That's long developing plays.
Yeah.
And they get blown up by a quick pass rush. But the rest of the league is moving towards no huddle, spread, shotgun, quick throwing. And he doesn't want to do that. And that's a good way to neutralize a pass rush, right? I mean, if the ball's out in 2 seconds, the guys haven't even disengaged with the blockers yet. Anyway, that's one. But that's not how he does offense, really.
Well, we're going to see how
Kelly sucked.
We're about to see if he becomes an evolution, if he elevates himself with having Trey Lance there, because there's no way in hell you're running any of those type of offenses with Jimmy Garoppolo. Hell nah.
He's not smart enough, but Trey should be. I'd like to see them do some up-tempo stuff. They used to do it with Nick Mullins because he was smart enough. Wasn't good enough, but he was smart enough to do it. So I'd like to see them implement that, because I do think Nick Saban was talking about, I saw a little clip. Basically, like, defensive players are all about assignment, alignment, technique, right? Offense comes out, you see where they're lined up. Every player's like, okay, assignment, alignment, technique. As long as I get those 3 things, I can sort of do a good job on this play. But once you take the huddle out, and once they're forced to, sprint to the line of scrimmage,
that's hard.
They're on their heels, and they're not really thinking about alignment, assignment, technique. They're like, what do I do? Who's my guy? Where am I? And so I think what Kyle does is he forces defensive players to make mistakes through motion. Yep. Other guys do it through up tempo. He can do it through both. He can do it both ways, which is cool.
That's what I was about to say. Like you said, that's saving perfect all the money, assignment, alignment, technique. It's like that's the reason why he has to do all these moving parts, because all of a sudden it's like, wait, what's my assignment on the defense?
Exactly.
What's technique is always going to be there. Great, well, not always be there, because if you're in a different position, you get out of position, and now you got to backtrack to your original technique. So that's really hard. So that's what he does. I think that's where he really gets the most raven, is because he's able to do that without such a rush thing, like a hurry up offense. But yeah, use both. If you're supposed to be a versatile coach, know how to use all your pieces and open up everything. Don't limit yourself. But again, now he doesn't have that excuse. He doesn't have that excuse. Barring Trey not looking great, then if he looks fine, just plays well. Doesn't even have to be that good. Just plays well. It's like he looks capable to throw him in and give him some chances. Then at that point, that's going to be a Shanahan problem to me. That's why I'll start getting that label.
I mean, I don't know if kids out there remember Peyton Manning, but he was this great quarterback, played most of his career with the Colts. And he made most of his career, what he would do is play would be blown dead. He'd rush everyone in the line of scrimmage, and he would just stand there for 20 seconds. And the defense would have to be prepared for a quick snap, but he would just stand there, no huddle, look at the defense, maybe put one guy in motion, figure out what they were going to do, call a play. He did that his whole career. I mean, I'm not saying everyone's good enough to do that, but I'd like to see. I know Jimmy's not. I think Trey might be able to do better than Jimmy, so I'd like to see that. Because I miss the days, and this is sort of before my time, but I miss the idea of quarterbacks calling their own plays. The league is just so coach-driven, like these coaches who are freaking control freaks. Would you let your quarterback make some decisions, please? Especially if he's great. I love that. I like watching a quarterback take control. Call your plays. It's your team. You're on the field. Tell a coach to shut up. Shut up. I'd love to see that win.
There's only like several quarterbacks that do that now, and that's only because they trust these players after years. They don't do that for the early players for sure. Hell no. Like obviously Brady, obviously Rodgers.
But they probably didn't get that responsibility in high school or college. Like these coaches are too controlling. You need to empower these kids at a younger age. That would be my one tweak for football, man.
Yep. Like I know Derek Carr does that too. I mean, well, Trey Lance, when he was in college, he was the one that was calling his whole offense's protection. It wasn't the center that did it, so that was his credit. So I mean, maybe like that. Hopefully, that translates to him taking on that maybe not that responsibility, but just like showing that he can do the plays in the line of scrimmage and get his guys around.
Because like one thing that kills me is the Kyle supporters and the Jimmy supporters always bash each other for losing the Super Bowl. Jimmy stunk in the fourth quarter. Well, Kyle didn't call any runs in the fourth quarter. One thing I'd like to say is, Jimmy, you're the quarterback. Kyle calls the play into you, but then you call the play to the team. You didn't like the runs? Call a pass. And I feel like in the 80s, I mean, I know that Joe Montana did stuff like that. He told my dad, or someone told my dad, there would be times where Bill would call a play and Joe Montana would come in with a smirk into the huddle and be like, you're not going to believe this shit. You're not going to believe this shit we're not running this. Do it. And the coach has a problem to step up. You're the quarterback of the team. I mean, Steve Young wouldn't have a problem calling his own play. Joe Montana didn't have I'm tired of these quarterbacks who just are on the field and they're like a human joystick. Well, whatever the coach tells me to do is what I'm going to do, man. Like, no, you don't have to. You can have some agency too, but maybe that's just a different era. Maybe they don't do it anymore. I miss it.
I just think there's a difference because that's part of the reason I make those players great. And there's only so many great, let alone good quarterbacks. I mean, you're not going to expect that out of a Jimmy Garoppolo. You're not going to expect that out of a Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins kind of does that. No, Kirk Cousins.
But as a quarterback, you can't complain about the play calls if you're just going to like listen to them and repeat them. Do something. You like something better? You want to run the ball? Call the run. And if it works, stare at your coach like, yeah, where the hell was that? Yeah, I called something else. I mean, these are competitors, right? I don't understand that. What happened to quarterbacks? They became so submissive. I don't get that. I mean, you're the highest paid. You make 5 times what your coach makes. Like, stand up to him, please.